Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Outliers YouTube channel and podcast series and our program, Get to Know. I'm your host, DP Lyle, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Kathleen Antrim.
Thanks, Doug. It's great to be here. And today is a great interview where we are identifying some new talent that's really amazing. We've got debut novelist Andy Pliego with us. Hey, Andy. And I understand your book is You're Fatally Invited.
Yes, it is. So thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to chat.
Absolutely. And as our viewers know, one of the things I like to do is from the get-go is get to know our guest. And I like to put you on the couch here like a psychologist or psychiatrist. And I want to ask about your childhood. I want to know whether your childhood, if you think your childhood contributed to you becoming a writer. Were you introverted? Were you extroverted? Were you an athlete? Did you read a lot? So tell us about your childhood. Did you have an imaginary friend, etc.?
Oh, yes. I had so many imaginary friends. And yeah, I couldn't get the voices to quit talking in my head, so I started putting them on paper. Very much an introvert. I grew up moving around a lot, mainly overseas, and it was really hard to have friendships, long-term friendships, traveling so much. So I would turn to my imaginary friends. And I think probably when I was 10 or 11, I started writing and just stories for myself. Didn't tell a single soul. It's only in the recent years that I've actually even like admitted that I used to write back then, but started writing a lot. Ended up writing a very nerdy fantasy epic based off of the Punic Wars, like just like very nerdy. And forgot about that for a while. Went through college and then picked it up again after college.
So did you go to college for creative writing, or what did you study in college?
Liberal arts, so not creative writing. But it didn't even occur to me that writing could be like a career. Like I always thought that authors just kind of popped out of the ether fully formed, with their backlists and their fans and their awards and all of that. So it didn't even occur to me that it could actually be something us lay people could do.
So, how did you start your first novel, and how long did it take for you to get published? And was it your first novel that got published, or was it, several novels down the road? Talk about your journey a little bit. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so in 2018, I started writing again seriously. And my first, I call it the first book I wrote because we don't count all of the, past childhood stuff. But the first one I wrote was a young adult speculative fiction thriller. So still had the thriller element, but different in a lot of ways. And I wrote that one. I tried and failed all along the way. So like overshot word count crazy high and queried that monster, and got all rejections, just kind of bumbled my way through while I was learning about how do you actually become a writer and how do you learn how to edit and all of that. So I got my agent with the 12th complete rewrite of this book. I just couldn't let it go, which is not something I'd necessarily recommend to people, but I just felt really strongly about this one. So I got my agent with that. All the while I was working on that, I wrote 3 other young adult novels. So I had written 4 at that point. And we sent my first young adult one out on submission to publishers. And while that iron was kind of going in the fire, my agent and I kind of had a strategy session of like, what else do I want to write? What other irons can we get going? And writing adult was something I was interested in, and she thought my voice would be really well suited too. So I started writing Fatally, and it was my first adult novel written, and I wrote it in 9 months. So
Wow.
it was written, drafted in 2 months, and then revised, edited, all of that over 9 months, and it sold exactly less than 2 weeks after we sent it on submission. So very quickly. And so I guess I'm an adult thriller writer now. But
Yes, you
Yes,
are.
you
Most
are.
definitely.
trading as that. So
What's your
How do you
process? Are
decide?
you a outliner or a pantser, or how do you approach your writing?
yeah, so I've tried kind of the full gambit of different methods. And I've landed on, I plot using story beats like Save the Cat. as much as I can and kind of get that narrowed down. I try to keep going down to like chapter outline if I'm really lucky and ambitious. And then I start putting on paper and it all goes out the window. So it's great.
Yeah.
No, but I'm constantly surprised by how the story shifts and changes, and it can be very frustrating, but also how I know I'm on the right track.
Exactly.
So how do you decide whether your book or the concept is going to be young adult or going to be adult? How do you decide that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So age of characters is a big thing, you know, like if you're writing about teens, then unless you're intentionally writing a book about teens but for adults, then it'll generally slot into teen fiction. But I actually am aging up one of my young adult books. So my young adult books tend to be very genre blending, like my adult books, but more like with speculative or kind of like a little bit of gothic horror or that kind of thing. So things that don't necessarily happen in our world. Whereas my adult thrillers tend to be, you know, like real fiction, like grounded completely. So I'm actually aging up one of my young adult books that was a very grounded thriller that didn't fit with my other kind of speculative ones. So that kind of the idea of like, oh, actually this would fit in a lot of ways better in adults, and I can age up the characters and have a lot of fun with that. And, you know, so it's kind of an evolving process for me, trying to figure out what goes where.
Cool.
So
What's
when
next?
go ahead, Doug.
No, go ahead, Kath.
So, so you're pretty much sort of an outliner, sort of a pantser, that kind of thing. But how do you, when you're looking at a concept, how do you kind of boil it down and decide, yeah, this will sustain a novel?
Yeah, so that's a great question. My big thing is taking two concepts and mixing them together and kind of seeing how that plays out. So for Fatally, the way I started was I was trying to decide between these two concepts. One that's basically like, and then there were none, locked room, island mystery, but for thriller authors. So make it kind of meta. There it is, yes. So make it kind of meta. So that was one concept. And then the other concept was a locked room dinner party murder mystery, but from the perspective of the person on the inside, kind of manipulating things and, you know, flickering the lights and making, you know, cutting the Wi-Fi and doing all of those things that goes on in the background. And the real magic happened when I was talking with my agent, and I was like, why don't we just combine the two? And then it's two ideas that maybe you've seen before, but when you mix them together, there's a whole host of different ways you can take it, and some fun things that you can just play around with, that might be a little bit of a fresher spin on some of these tropes that we love. So yeah, looking at like the big, like what can be the commercial one sentence pitch for it, the this meets this, you know, that could kind of give it a fresh spin.
So go ahead and give us the pitch for You're Fatally Invited. I mean, tell us a little bit about this novel.
Yes, so You're Fatally Invited is a satirical thriller about a writer's retreat for thriller and horror authors gone fatally wrong when they're all invited to an island of this anonymous legendary author. Kind of think, you know, kind of like a Stephen King or just a very well-known author that, you know, his books everyone's read or everyone knows of them, but no one knows his real name. And so he invites them all here to his private island for a luxury writer's retreat. And they start being killed off after the manner of the tropes in their books. So it definitely has that meta element of they're starting to catch on the pattern and go, oh no, what murders have I written about? You know, like thinking through their head, trying to figure out, hey, I need to be careful of, you know, this thing or that thing, and, you know, make sure I'm not in this room when, you know, whatever. So it's
You don't want to be Colonel Mustard. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's a clue game in it that they have, which is the clue is a huge element, but one of the tropes that they have to like play is game night. So they have a clue board that's a custom board of the mansion that they are in. and also clue cards with like their faces, you know, caricatured on it, and then also the sins, the things that they did, and they have to match who did what. So
tell us a little bit about your protagonist.
yes, so this was my most ambitious project of yet, because it's multi-POV, so it follows all the authors, but it's structured so that we get one POV throughout the entire book, which is Mila, and she is our event coordinator. She's the girl on the inside who knows that they're here to exact some sort of revenge on these authors. So she's helping the anonymous author kind of as the front woman. So she welcomes all the guests and, you know, makes sure everyone's comfortable, cuts the Wi-Fi, you know, all of these, watches them on cameras, all these little things. So we get her point of view throughout the book, and unknown to anyone, including the author she's working for, she's plotting her own revenge on one of the authors. So we also get her kind of little vendetta going on over there. And then each day of the retreat, each part of the book focuses on a different author. And so we get like her point of view and then Rodrigo's, and it bounces back and forth over the first day. And then, you know, something happens to maybe one of the characters, and then it switches points of view along with Mila going on forward. So it's a lot of point of views, but also structured, you know, as characters get popped off to not be too overwhelming.
You're not afraid to get rid of them.
For a debut author, this is clever and ambitious, and a lot going on there. I'm amazed because it would take 10 books before you should be able to do something like that, because it is a very complex plot with all those characters. Moving that many characters around is not easy. I'm sure you ran into stumbling blocks about, am I running in circles here? You know?
Yes.
Yes.
So much rewriting, and, you know, trying to zoom out from a bird's eye view. And I'm a big fan of like spreadsheets and, you know, charts and all of these things, and, you know, looking through and being like, that character disappeared for 3 chapters, you know, we got to bring them, make sure they're actually existing in the plot, or figuring out, you know, what each of the characters are doing behind the scenes that we may not know at the time. So yes, it's lots of moving parts. Yes. Yeah.
Very cool.
So tell our viewers where they can find your books, where they can learn more about you.
Yeah. So you can find my books anywhere that you can buy books, pretty much. I will say a little shout out to the audiobook. It is a full cast narration, and all of the actors were my dream actors for the book, and they nailed it. Absolutely fantastic. So highly recommend the audiobook. But, you know, hopefully the book is good too. But I am on, my website is andepliego.com, just my name. And I'm fairly active on Instagram to show, like, you know, the day in the life and, you know, what I'm working on, teasing book 2 and that kind of thing. So, and that is Ande Pliego Writes. So my name and then just Writes.
Okay.
Very
cool.
Tease
the next book. Do
you
have a title for it yet, or do you have a concept for it yet, or do you not want to talk about it, or?
So I am desperate to talk about it, because
okay, good.
It's been in the works for 2 years, and I think this month at Harrogate is when it's officially going to be at the Harrogate Crime Festival. It's officially going to be in the brochure, I think. So I'm like starting to tease more and more, but I will say it is another book about books. It's a love letter to books and book institutions of sorts. Another locked room murder mystery. It's got, you know, it's not quite as satirical as Fatally was, but it does blend some other genres, because I can't stay away from that. And it is, yeah, multi-POV, everyone's a suspect kind of plot.
What's the title? Or do you know yet?
When will this air?
Soon.
Yeah, probably in the next.
If you don't want to give it, that's okay.
I think I can give it, because we're gonna announce it pretty soon. I'll give it. You guys get the first peek at it.
Oh, cool.
It's called Your Death is Now Overdue.
Aha, I like it.
Love it.
I like
love it. Love it.
Concept of where the book takes place, but yes.
And if the cover's as cool as you're invited, I mean, you're fatally invited. That's a cool cover. So I like it.
Thank you. yeah, I saw early cover concepts and I'm very excited. I think it'll be really fantastic.
Well, you're a fantastic interview, and we've got to have you back to talk about the next book. When will that one be launching?
Um, right now it's April or May of next year, depending
Okay.
on.
So we'll have to have you back for
Yeah,
that.
let us know. We'll get you back. It'd be fun.
Yeah, Andy Pliego, it's great to have you.
Yes.
I also want to ask our viewers to please click the thumbs up. It helps with the algorithms and gets our interviews out there. And if you like what we're doing here, please subscribe. It's free, and that way you won't miss any of our interviews. And I'll throw it back to you, Doug.
Yeah, Andy, thank you so much. This has just been a hoot and a half. I love the book. I love the concept of the book. And congratulations. I mean, there's nothing like having that first book in print. It's just like, oh my, it's giddy time.
Yeah,
But like professional authors do, you're moving on to the next one and the next one and the next one, and we love to see that. So we will have you back.
wonderful. Thank you so much, both of you. This has been
Yeah.
so lovely.
And until then, this has been Get to Know here on the Outliers YouTube channel and podcast series. And as you know, we will be back with other interviews and other fun stuff. So until then, keep reading, keep writing, keep having fun, and try not to get caught.